expression, an explosion of creation, of creative energy that is pouring itself out, lavishly, out of control, abundantly in every single direction without boundaries. And then maybe your assignment and my assignment this holy season is to imagine that that is in you. Imagine that. That's what's in you, naturally. And by naturally, I mean you don't have to produce it. You're not responsible for generating it. There's nothing you can do to create it. It exists in with you, but just don't try and stop it, because it's going to make you so tired if you do. So very tired. And then in the book he says, and when this is stifled in us, and life cannot do its thing, or something similar like that, you know. And I've been looking at that. Have I been stifling it? Is that why I'm tired? You know, the whole sentence is, love itself is the urge of spirit to express itself, and when this is stifled in us, well, life just can't do what it wants to do in us. I'm sitting with that, you know. I mean, how do you stifle an explosion of creativity and givingness? How do you stifle that? Well, you can probably think up a couple of ways for yourself. I'm thinking, you know, one of the ways of stifling it is, about placing conditions on it. You know, if I bring it to the human experience, then that's loving only when the investment promises a real good yield, a good return. Or being affectionate when there's a clear payoff, when there's something, or being kind, attentive, caring, listening when the recipient is somebody in my group, my clan, my family, my nation. You know, and there are probably other ways that you can imagine stifling that flow and the tiredness that comes from not being yourself. Whatever that is. There's a story of a very prosperous and famous monastery that had a great education program and wonderful practices and was rich, but it fell upon bad times as people wandered away and the mission got, I guess, confused until it got down to the point why there were only 5 of them left, 5 monks, one of them the abbot, the senior monk, and they didn't know what to do and how were they to bring their monastery back to its former glory. And they had heard that there was a rabbi who lived deep in the forest in a shack that had retired to a life of contemplation, very wise man in connection with spirit. So they sent the word to visit, and he welcomed them. The abbot himself went to visit the rabbi in the woods, and he sat and he told them the story of the decay of the monastery. And the rabbi commiserated. He said, yes, I know, it's terrible. This is terrible, a terrible thing. And the abbot said, yes, I know it's terrible, but do you have some advice? And the rabbi said, no, I have no advice. This is very awful. But I can tell you that one of you is the Messiah. After which he would not speak. So the abbot took that information back to the remaining monks, and they sat with it, and they wondered what it could mean. Does he mean the abbot? I mean, after all, he is the leader. Perhaps he is. But then, you know, there is this brother Thomas. He's so gentle. Perhaps he is. But you know, what about Brother Eldred? I know he's feisty and arrogant, but he seems to always be right. And on they went, and as they sat with this and they contemplated in this manner, the old monks began to treat each other with a certain respect. Then that moved into a holiness. And on the off chance that one of them was the Messiah, they just held this space. And then on the off chance that it was they themselves, they began to treat themselves with an extraordinary care and love. And they did all of this even in the presence of everything they didn't like about each other. Even in the presence of those annoying habits that they still continue to have, even with all those things they could not yet accept about themselves and their world, they held that space. And over time, people started to stop by at the monastery to picnic. At first, they didn't quite know why. They weren't quite conscious of what it was that made this such a pleasant stop. They were drawn to this place, the beauty of the place, and later they would say it was an overwhelmingly, strangely attractive, even compelling way that the brothers treated each other that drew them to this place, and it rose back into its former glory and prosperity. How might you and I treat each other if we suspected on the off chance that the one is dwelling within? Now, I know there isn't such a thing as a one, but you know what I mean. Or how might we speak to somebody if we had this thought that in him or her, seated in the soul, was the Divine Mother, with haste and anger and indignation and rushing, just like the other day, yesterday, as I was pulling out of one of those parking lots that seemed to be infested with ants in the form of cars. And I just want to get out. I just want to get out of there. And so I'm trying to just blend into the traffic. That's all I want to do. I just want to get out of there. And here comes this car. Now it's slowing down. It's slowing down. Yes, what? You know, there's a lever. You push the lever, then it shows which way you're going to turn. Is that too much to ask? And even in that moment, I went, you know, I just wrote all these notes about the monks and the extraordinary respect with which they treat each other. And, you know, what is that? I mean, I don't even know what God's going to do any moment now. I want God to show me with a lever which way it's going to turn. I mean, if I really thought this was the presence of the divine, then I would wait. Take your time. You know? What an honor to see you decide. Wonderful. Look, where shall I go in such a hurry? And how would we conduct ourselves if we thought, on the off chance that within us is the spark, the life-giving, biology healing, soul-nurturing spark of divinity in ourselves, naturally? A great Christian mystic, Catholic Christian mystic, well known for her writing particularly about silent mental prayer, even quoted in catechism, you know, Teresa of Avila. She writes, "We do not understand ourselves or who we are. We only know we are living in these bodies, and we have a vague idea that we possess a soul." And from the first time I read that, I thought to myself, I want to bring that idea out of vagueness. I want to bring it out into the open. And that's why I respect the Center for Spiritual Living and its emphasis on spiritual practice, you know, to help me, as it has so many times, to gently return to the awareness that no matter what is going on inside of me, that the place that I'm standing, when I just be myself, when I just let myself be, is love. Undefended, unrequited, beautiful. Sometimes I talk to people about their natural love and they despair. They say that it doesn't feel natural to them. It doesn't feel like that's who they are naturally. In fact, it feels like to be loving, they have to learn it like a whole new skill.